Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Habits of Influence. Last week's episode was rather hated, so yeah, I'm gonna I'm gonna put it a little bit more mellow this week, and yeah, let's go back to being a little bit more serious. Um, how are you, Ian?
How was last week heated? It was. I didn't think anything was heated about it. It was just really relaxed. It
No,
was fun.
it got a little bit of fun at a certain point, but yeah, that's the way it is. Sometimes we get more emotionally attached to certain topics rather than others, and that was the result. I hope you enjoyed it. To whoever watched it, if not, go back and definitely watch it because it's worth. We were talking about sales, but this week I wanted to discuss with you a little bit more serious topic, and that's all about struggles, with emotional struggles, or stress, emotional anxiety, and dealing with all of that whilst you have to be on top of your game, whilst you're still running your business, and well, you have to be out there regardless of what's happening in your inner world or outer world, depending on what is triggering those situations. For those that are new here, every single week, me, Magdalena, Hanah, and my co-host,
Ian Manheimer.
we are sitting down and
I like,
talking
I like when you
about,
say my name better.
huh?
I like when you say my name.
No, you have to say your own name. So, yes, continuing, every week we sit down and talk about topics regarding life that somehow tie into business, and specifically on becoming the person of influence and building a movement of people that are super excited to follow you. So those topics are of a very varied range, and every single week I actually come up with those topics without letting Ian know. So he's always wonderfully surprised, and all the conversations that we have here are absolutely raw and yeah, just as they are, just as they would happen if we were just chatting over a coffee. So I hope you're enjoying it. Please remember to subscribe if that's something that is of interest for you. We try and indirectly mentor you to be that person of influence, to be that person who built a massive movement. Before we get to today's topic, as usual, I want to start with an intro. So let's roll it now. Hello and welcome, and thank you for tuning in to Habits of Influence, a project by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs, where we discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly aspects of building a movement, and hopefully provide insight, as well as motivation for your business journey. Through the combined expertise of 34 years in business, your hosts, Magdalena, Hanah, and Ian Manheimer, are here to empower and indirectly mentor you whilst you become the person others wish to follow. Okay, and we're back. I'm generally, I'm really good at topics like that if I don't have to start them. So I think I would just give the mic to you.
Shocking.
Shocking.
Sorry.
Shocking.
You hit me a solid line drive, expect me to catch it with my face. Got it. All right. Emotional stress, dealing with emotional stress as a business owner. It is a roller coaster, just like life. It is one of those things that I don't think can be avoided. And I say this as somebody who, I do a lot of internal work. I do a lot of mindset, and I think that's one of my superpowers. I have a strong mindset, and just sometimes you are just burnt out, or you just don't feel like it, and emotions come over. As an entrepreneur, we are constantly on. It doesn't matter when we're not working, we're still working. And it takes a toll on family, it takes a toll on relationships, it takes a toll on mental health, it takes a toll on our physical health. There's so much involved with being an entrepreneur that it's just a roller coaster ride. Mm-hmm. And especially if you have children and you're trying to raise a family, or you're trying to whatever you're trying to do, there's always going to be those ups and downs. And how do we, as entrepreneurs, as people, deal with that emotional stress? How do we work through that? What is it that we do to help offset or balance those emotional roller coasters? And I guess for me, I think of, and if we're going to be fully transparent, I'm a transparent person. Lately I haven't wanted to. Sometimes you just gotta sit in the crap and be like, you know what, I'm gonna be angry today, or I'm gonna be miserable, or I'm gonna allow myself to be sad, or whatever, because sometimes you just don't have the emotional capacity to even deal with it,
Yeah.
or it's just a choice. And most of the time, it's funny because I 100% know. I would say 99.9% of the time when I am in a funk, when I'm dealing with emotional stuff, I know how to get out of it. I know the tools. I've got the tips and tricks. I've been doing this a long time, and I know what I need to do. But sometimes I just don't want to do it. Sometimes I just don't care. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? I just need to sit in this for a while because I don't want to deal with it. you know, even the other day I was like, I was emotionally drained, and I'm like, I really should just read something, get my mind, flip my mindset. Maybe just read a book. And I'm like, you know what? I don't feel like reading. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to scroll through freaking Facebook or YouTube or whatever I was on at the time. I'm like, I don't want to think right now. I just want to detach from everything. And I say detach as I'm on my phone, which makes absolutely no sense. It's not congruent with what I just said, but like detach from responsibility, maybe that's a better way to do it. Like detach from business and thinking, and be able to actually just turn my brain off and allow myself to be entertained for a little while. And I think sometimes with emotions, we can let them run us, or we can learn how to corral it. And it's like everything with business and life, it's a fine balance. And there's going to be days where we are really good at doing the corralling and maintaining our composure and staying up top. And there's going to be days where we fall. But what we have to realize is, as just with life, and I use a roller coaster analogy a lot, is life is like a roller coaster. You're going to have your ups, you're going to have your downs, you're going to have your twists, your turns, and flipped upside down. You'll be jolted from side to side. And some of the best roller coasters I've ever been on have had the highest peaks, the biggest drops, the craziest turns, but you enjoy the ride. And at the end of the day, that's what we have to realize is, sometimes we're going to be up here, sometimes we're going to be down there, but just knowing that it'll all eventually work out, and just being able to be present and understand that even if we're not there right now, it will be good in the long run.
Yeah. But it's so easy to get enwrapped in that feeling of, I don't know if to call it responsibility, but I don't want to use the wrong word here, but it's just the need of showing up, or the fear of missing something. When you're a business owner, especially, and you know that you're not at the top of your game, and you know that this is just piling up, and you know that if you do not address it, it would just keep getting worse and worse and worse. And you can't, push through that. Some people do advise, like, stand face to face with your fears, just like push through that. Sometimes you're just not able to push through that. And you end up in this predicament of, like you said, finding yourself in a place where you regardless of the amount of tools and techniques and tips and tricks, it's very hard to pull yourself out of that hole of misery. So it's always good to keep yourself in check as and when things happen. I do it every day. And I know that every day aside of the fact that I'm exceptionally lazy and I just hate social media, truth, sometimes I just don't feel like it. It comes to a almost physical response of my body of how much I don't want to do stuff. And I know that the best course of action for me is to actually turn off my computer, turn off my devices, and do whatever shit comes up to my head. But I've noticed lately, especially if I'm running a project that requires a lot of work, or I'm currently, obviously running a program or working with clients actively. I cannot do that, right? So I kind of push through. And I've noticed that it sometimes takes me to the point of insanity where I almost do not allow myself to feel things. I do not allow myself to take that rest. And even recently, I've noticed one thing. I used to be a dancer, so I actually love music. I love listening to music. But I've noticed and I've realized, I had an epiphany recently that I have not just like listened to music for years, because there's always something else, whether it's my responsibilities towards my child, or just focusing on paying the bills or on everyday life and having everything in check. I used to struggle with terrible perfectionism as well, so if I get engrossed in something, I just cannot stop. And I stood in my kitchen, I remember maybe a few days ago, and it was dark, and I was just like tidying up and doing all sorts of things, and I heard a song that I really, really like. I've had the radio on. And I was like, my God, this song is so good. And I started thinking about one thing led to another. It's like, why do I not listen to music anymore? Why am I not doing the things that make me the happiest? Why do I not allow myself to just be, because I always have to be somewhere else or do something else for someone? And, that realization kind of scared me, because it made me so happy, that little glimpse of hearing that song that I really liked. And not doing it for myself has led me multiple times in the past to the point of almost, depression. And like I said, I have physical responses. It's not just about mental struggles, but actual physical responses in my case. I start getting sick, I start getting back problems, and that forces me to stop. But do we have to move to that point? I'm just wondering, and
Hopefully not.
hopefully not. I mean, I know you have your own story, of a physical struggle where you could not just let go of your business because your business was there. I don't know if you want to talk about it or not. Regardless, it's sometimes it's hard, right? If you want to from one point, but from another, you just explain to yourself, okay, but I am running a business. This is my responsibility. I have shit to do. I have to be places. I have to do stuff. And it's
I think for me, it's my mentality. I think of two different things separate. So you have your business and you have your personal. So they both create their own level of stresses and their own level of emotional tension.
yeah, but sometimes it's so
But
serious that you can't help but it kind of brushes off a little bit.
yeah,
It's inevitable.
from my business, I've always just had the mentality: show must go on. No matter what, whether I'm sick, whether I'm dying, show must go on. I take care of my people. That's it. There's no option in that. And that's just how I do it. I mean, I know a lot of people might disagree with that, and this may not be the healthiest, but that's how I am. I I have shown up to work when I have not physically felt. And when I say physically, I don't mean like sick, like I'm contagious, but if I have back issues or, I think, are you referring to the whole cancer thing? Is that what you're referring to
Yeah.
from last year? Yeah. So I had cancer last year. I had surgery, and within a week of my surgery, I mean, maybe even before the week, I was still working. I didn't take time off, and I would leave my chemo appointments and go straight to work. And is that the smartest thing to do? Probably not, but that's what I did. And at that point last year, because of the whole pandemic and everything, we were very short staffed. It was just myself and my son at that point. I didn't really have any employees. Most of my employees weren't there, and so I was very short staffed. So I was like, we're getting it done. And there were times where he'd drive, and I'd be nodding out in the freaking passenger seat of the truck, and we get to a customer's house. I'd wake up, and I'm like, all right, let's go. And I mean, you just do what you have to do to serve your people. At least that's the way I've always done it. And I'm very fortunate in the sense that, one, I have an amazing kid who would be there for me no matter what that I needed, which was wonderful. But I'm also very fortunate because even though, and I hate to say minimizing it, but it does almost seem minimizing, is even though I had cancer, I had a very treatable form of cancer. my surgeon got it all out with the surgery. The chemo I was doing was preventive. I didn't have the typical reactions that most people have to chemo. I wasn't nauseous. I was a little fatigued, but I wasn't like nauseous. I didn't have like the major side effects that a lot of people going through chemo get. So I was able to perform like normal. I also have a very strong mindset, which we talked about earlier, and maybe the last episode. But it's the mindset of I just mentally turned on that this is what needs to be done and this is what I'm doing, and I don't need to relax. I don't need the break. Actually being able to work kept me distracted from thinking about things. And it was actually a benefit. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have days where I was miserable. I don't like the sun as it is. So being out in the hot sun when you're on chemo is not fun. You tend to like burn easier, or like my forehead always felt oily or greasier. I felt like I smelled bad. But overall, it wasn't bad. I was so grateful that I was able to do what I did. There were times where, I was angry. And I mean, my other son could tell you, because we took an East Coast trip for 2 weeks, and we were out in the sun. I was grouchy the whole time, like, it's hot, I don't want to be out here. I need a hat, I need sunglasses. I was like just grumpy, and like it was, I was bitching about the whole thing, and I have to take these stupid pills, and I have to do this, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I have to eat certain times a day because I have to eat with my pills, and I was grumpy about it. I mean, I can't lie and say, oh, I was perfectly happy and I'm this super positive spiritual person, blah, blah, blah. No, I do have emotion. But I think the flip side is understanding that even when we go through difficult times, understanding that it's going to pass.
Yeah.
Being positive doesn't mean that you're happy all the time. It means understanding that even during the rough times, there's better times ahead. It's going to pass. Things will turn around. You're going to have your peaks. You're going to have your valleys. And that's just that. I think that's where I'm at with it. And when we talk about emotion, we're not immune to it unless you just don't have like a heart. I don't know. Like I think as people, we have emotions. We have triggers. We have things that upset us. We have things that excite us. We have things that affect us differently. And being able to recognize, acknowledge, and work through those things is going to be crucial to not just your business success, but also your personal success.
Yeah.
When we have stress at business, not letting it affect our home life. If we have stress at home, don't let it affect your business life. And it's difficult to do. It's very difficult to separate those two. It's extremely difficult to accept, especially if you're a solopreneur where you're doing it all yourself.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But then again, when you have a team, the responsibility is bigger, and that kind of thought of like, I can't disappear for too long because there's people counting on me. It changes the game, doesn't it? It's just like, regardless of how much it hurts or regardless of how bad you feel, there's always this thing in the back of your head. I mean, providing that you do respect the people that work with you, that that's it's a little bit bigger than me now. It's a little bit more, that there's something that I have to do to show up. But also you did say something very interesting, and I think I've got that too, is sometimes it's like an escape, isn't it? It's a little bit of an escapism, especially if you love your job, if you really really feel it. And I've been saying myself in the last 3.5 weeks, like in massive pain, and there were days where I literally cried. I was sitting and I was calling my mom and crying my eyes out because I was in so much pain. It was really hurting, and nothing was helping. Like no drugs and no exercise, no nothing. But after about 2 weeks of it, it's just like I felt like, oh, I can't stand this just sitting here, because I did kind of shut myself out of it. I did do my regular things that I do in my group, so with my clients, with my team. I did this sales training and all, but I was kind of like, I did take a step back, and I did take a little bit of time for myself, because I knew that if I completely neglected, then there's also one more person that is more important than all of this shebang, which is my 7-year-old son. that also needed me, with 100%. So after those 2 weeks, I kind of found like, oh, I've got this idea, I've got this thing to do, I've got this project, and I'm gonna, at least if I can't show up live, I'm going to edit this video or do this behind the scenes or build this funnel or whatever, contact those people. So I was doing whatever else I could, without physically showing up and without putting too much of my effort, because nobody could see me. I could look like complete crap, in my sweatpants, and just, cry if it hurts, and just at other moments just go at it. But it actually made me feel better. So yeah, sometimes it is a form of escapism, especially if you do love your job, but you do love your business. But also, allowing yourself to take that time. And I think I always, when I speak to my clients, I actually spoke with my client recently, and she said that that she's got this bad moment right now, that she knows she needs a little bit of time, and she decided to kind of, take a step backwards and shut herself off of that. And I say there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. And you should be very mindful, and you should take your time when you feel that this is the time that you should be taking, providing that you don't sit in it for too long.
And it's a way of honoring yourself too, is understanding what your needs are, whether it's emotional, physical, spiritual, and being able to honor yourself enough to say, hey, you know what? I need a break. I need to
Yeah.
tap out.
And there's nothing wrong, your clients will understand, your partners, collaborators will understand. I know for a fact that clients or audiences will understand as well, because you're not a robot, you're a human being. So as long as, there is that sense of responsibility, like I said, don't leave people hanging, and just say, like, after 5 years, hello, just decided to come back. Because you need to kind of renew that, earn the right kind of once again, right? But as long as it's just like a temporary recess, just for the sake of you feeling better, there's nothing wrong with it, and everybody will understand, and there's nothing you're missing, or for God's sakes, you're actually, resting from all of that noise that is happening. So I don't find anything wrong with that, and I do that quite a while. I try and stay on top of my regulars, obviously, but if I don't want to show up, I'm not going to show up. And I value that.
Like, I know you mentioned music, and music is a huge one for me, but if you were to name a couple of things that you do that helps you get through like some of those stressful times, what would you say you do?
I breathe. Sometimes
important.
it's just as simple as sitting down with my own thoughts, trying to not even organize them, because sometimes they just run freely and they're complete chaos. But just sit with that, with whatever it is that is happening, try and kind of make sense of it, and just breathing in and just trying to relax. That's one thing that I do. I like walking. Walking is really calming me down. I think one of the best things that I've learned is just to just go, in nature, and just walk around a little bit, and just the sheer pleasure of fresh air, or the birds singing, or the sounds of trees, whooshing in the on the wind. It just really brings me back. It grounds me. So that's mine. What about you?
It's well, I want to piggyback on what you just said too, because that's such an underrated thing, walking. And walking does so much for us. We're getting physical exercise, even though you may not be building a huge cardio, you're not like pace walking or jogging, but you are physically.
No, just like a little walk, just...
Yeah, you are physically moving, which raises your dopamine, your endorphins in your mind. And then being out in nature also has been proven to help you calm, relax, rejuvenate, recharge, whatever you want to call it. So nature is a wonderful thing, and if you, like you said, taking them, listen to the trees blowing or the birds chirping, and that's something that so many of us, I think, lose track of, how important, how beautiful that can be.
Yeah.
Because if you just do it, most people will feel better. I can't say you, because I'm not in your body or anybody else's, but I know for me, if I do that, it does really help. It helps significantly. Music. You asked me music is one of my huge outlets. And people always ask me what kind of music I listen to. I said, it depends on what mood I'm in. Because I will change my genre of music based on what.
Anything that moves me, I'm the same. It's not like I'm married to one particular.
There are certain times where I'm just angry and I want to hear something really heavy and dark. And there's times where I just want to chill out. I'll put on some reggae, just like real chill mood. Or, sometimes I just want to be goofy. I'll put on some like 80s or 90s like hip hop, or get like some California love going on, or something like that, where it's like some jams. And then it really, my music is very much mood dependent.
I do love blues, but kind of reggae does have a special place in my heart. That's my like younger years, I must admit. But yeah, I go from anything from jazz to classical music through rock, whatever I need at that particular time, depending on the mood. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the breathing is really essential too, like doing like the deep breathing exercises, like take a long, slow, deep breath in for like 5 to 7 seconds, hold it for 5 to 7 seconds, exhale for 5 to 7 seconds. That definitely helps. I mean, there's been times where I'll meditate or journal, and I haven't done that in a while. I used to do it all, like every day. I would journal and do some sort of meditation and exercise. Exercise is a really good one. If I'm ever having something, you just get your heart pumping, get a good sweat going. It does change your moods. At least for me, it does. I mean, those are great things. Of course, there's some other stuff, but I mean,
yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking about it. My life has become really, really simple lately, and I don't know if it's a case of me getting old or, I just value peace. That moment where I can be with myself, where my child's dad takes him for the weekend, for example, and I could just be with myself, just be present. It doesn't require much. I must say that creativity is something that helps me as well. Now that I think about it, just doing something around my business, like I said, not even recording, but perhaps, editing or creating a design or something like that, that really calms me down and it really makes me happy. Now, I'm probably, shouldn't give that as an example, because minding that we are talking about, detaching from work. But, this is a huge part of my life and something that I really, really love. And there's so many wonderful creative aspects in it that I like to do when I'm feeling sad, because I put my whatever mood expression, into that thing that I'm doing.
Well, you mentioned creativity, and that doesn't necessarily for you. You talk about your line of work, but creativity could be, buying a coloring book and coloring.
Yeah.
Productivity. You could be outside planting flowers or working in the yard or cleaning the house. Or
if you're artistic, artistically inclined, you can play an instrument or learn something new, or I don't know, paint. Or dance. I used to dance back in the day. Like I said, when I was listening to music, I used to just jam around my kitchen, or I went and rented a studio for a couple of hours and just done some dancing over there. But hey, it's a different. Yeah. Well, I used to be a dancer in it, so it was my thing to do. All right. So yeah, many ways. Be mindful. Don't force yourself, but also don't stay in a place of misery for too long. You have a right to be a human being. Everybody will understand that you are a human being, and there is no need to force it at all costs.
Take the time, honor yourself, honor who you are, know what you want, know what you need, and allow yourself permission. I think you and I have had this conversation like before we even started doing podcast stuff together. I remember having a conversation with you about just saying, hey, give yourself permission to just be and not be productive for a day, or not have to stress over something. Just be. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that. I'm a massive believer in that. And sometimes the most productive thing you can actually do is not do anything at all.
Absolutely.
Oh, So we're giving the floor to you guys now. What do you think? What are your favorite methods to deal with stress and struggles as a business owner? Do you have any things that you do that keep you calm, keep you happy, that kind of take the pain away? Drop them in the comments if you are watching on YouTube. And as usual, don't forget to like and subscribe. We are here for you every single week. We don't want you to miss an episode. If you're enjoying those conversations, stay with us. It's going to be fun, we promise. And if you are listening on one of the podcast platforms, so you're just listening to it as a podcast, and if you wish to share your thoughts, you can always send them to our email on habitsofinfluence@gmail.com. You can also drop your suggestions for the topics that you would like us to discuss. And yeah, that's it. I think, I'm going to see you next week, Ian, and hopefully our audience is going to be with us yet again. Yeah, there's nothing more that you would like to add, is there?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being part of our podcast. And we look forward to hearing from you. We want to hear your comments, your suggestions, your ideas. And we look forward to engaging with you.
That's it. All right. I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.